Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt, the vocals of Cryptopsy, and you're listening to my podcast, Vox&Hops, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians and talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. In case you missed it, on October 26th at Turbo House on St. Denis Street in downtown Montreal, I will be hosting the very first one-year anniversary party for Vox&Hops. That's right, Vox&Hops is already turning 1 year old, and I am organizing an epic party night to celebrate it. I've invited all the previous guests of the Vox&Hops podcast, the Vox&Hops alumni. All of those who are close by and can attend will be there to party and celebrate the podcast with me, and I am inviting all of you Vox&Hops heads to come out and celebrate with us as well. Throughout the night, there will be a very first for the Vox&Hops podcast. There will be a live interview, which I will conduct on site with a very special secret guest, whom I will announce in the next few weeks. I got to tell you that I'm very, very excited to interview this secret guest. It is someone that I've always wanted to interview, so I'm super, super, super stoked for that, and I can't wait to share the guest's name with all of you. In the description of this podcast and on the Vox&Hops Facebook page is a link where you can go purchase your ticket to get admittance into the Vox&Hops 1 year anniversary party on October 26th. Along with the ticket, you get the very first Vox&Hops branded glassware. The sucker is a beautiful 9-ounce tasting glass, the exact type of glass that I like to use to drink my beer when I'm at home, and I have a black Vox&Hops logo on it. I'm super excited to get them so that I can take some pictures of them to start showing you guys what to expect. But what are you going to do with this glass at the party, you're asking yourselves? Well, I brewed the very first Vox&Hops collaborative brew alongside the great people of Microbrasserie Le Fermentor, who happen to be Vox&Hops alumni. They are from L'Assomption. I went there last week and we brewed together a New England IPA, which we called Highway to Hops. There's a lot of hops in this. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be fruity. I'm super, super excited to taste this beer with all of you on October 26th at Turbo House for the 1 year anniversary party for Vox&Hops. Remember all of that information, and you can get your tickets right now. And with the ticket comes the glassware and a tasting of the Highway to Hops. All that information is available in the description of this podcast, and it is available on the Vox&Hops Facebook page. Today on the podcast, I'm with Zack Coleman, who is the head brewer at TRVE Brewing and is also the drummer of the band Khemmis. Here it is, Vox&Hops, episode number 71.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today I'm with Zack Coleman, the drummer and the head brewer of TRVE Brewing from Denver, Colorado. We are on location at Brasserie Harricana in Montreal, which is right down the street from Bar Le Ritz, where Khemmis is playing tonight.
Yes, yeah, I'm excited to be in Montreal and glad to be sitting here drinking a beer with you. So
Absolutely.
Thanks
We're
for
almost
having me
drinking
on.
a beer. We're almost drinking a beer.
Yeah, soon to be.
Tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Let's start with the musical side of things.
Oh, man. I've been playing with Khemmis now for about 6 years, but before that I played in several black death metal bands, more extreme underground kind of stuff, and I've been playing heavy metal in some form or fashion for the last 18 years or so, in pretty unsuccessful bands. So,
and as you have to do at the beginning.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
how you learn and how you grow.
But enjoying it all the whole time nonetheless. So,
What would have been that early inspiration to get you to pick up the drumstick?
Oh my God, man. I mean, the real early inspiration for drumming for me is like classic rock and roll. Growing up in Texas, like ZZ Top, and just being raised on that kind of, ZZ Top, Lynyrd Skynyrd, a lot of Southern rock in the house growing up, and then like Black Sabbath. And once I heard that, it was like, okay, yeah, melted my brain. I have to do this now. So.
What does Khemmis have coming up after this tour?
We're doing a 10-day run in Europe in November, and then we have another little United States run at the end of the year, which we haven't announced yet. So, but
sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you know who you're going to Europe with?
Yeah, it's this band Iron Walrus. So
Sounds awesome.
yeah,
Sounds awesome.
we'll see how it goes. I don't know. We haven't really been able to do much in Europe. Last year we did some festivals, Roadburn, Doom over Leipzig, and those were great. But this will be our first time doing like a string of shows there, and for various reasons it's taken us a long time to make it happen. So I'm excited to get over and do that.
What would be a dream tour for Khemmis?
Oh my God. I don't know, man. We always joked when we started the band that, you know, our dream was to tour with High on Fire,
Yeah.
which we almost were able to do once. But so I still think that's up there, though. That would be great for us.
We just got delivered a beautiful beer.
Yeah.
You were perusing the beer menu and you said, "Oh my God!"
They had a Lichtenhainer, which is a style of beer you don't see very often.
So tell everyone a little bit about what a Lichtenhainer is.
It's a smoky, sour beer, usually low alcohol. I don't know that much about it otherwise. I do know that I'm usually into them when I see it, though. So
This one's clocks in at 3.3 ABV.
yeah, perfect for
It's
pre-show.
got a really perfect pre-show drinking.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cool lemonade color.
Yep. Very straw.
Very, very, yeah.
straw.
Nice
golden.
white head. Cheers.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
cheers.
sitting down. Smells like a sour beer would.
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. So I like this. The level of smoke is present enough to make sense, to hold its own, but not so overpowering. It's a really nice balance.
Whereas it tastes like a hot dog.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why my wife has been saying that since we've been drinking some smoked beers, and it
Yeah.
sort of ruins some smoked beers for me.
I've heard that before. I guess my brain just doesn't go there. I don't have that flavor association.
Very drinkable. You can definitely go through way too many.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's... I remember reading somewhere somebody talking about smoked beers, like by your fourth one you'll love them. So
It's like an acquired getting to love taste, and by
for sure.
they get you right at the end.
It's like what I always say about I like worship Merciful Fate and King Diamond, but I understand if people don't like it, and I feel that way about like smoked beers and these kind of things.
You gotta get pummeled by it.
Yeah, if you hear like some Merciful Fate for the first time and it doesn't click immediately, I can understand.
The riffs are always amazing.
Yeah.
It's the high falsetto trying to take that seriously
Exactly.
as a form of
Yeah.
vocal approach. No disrespect, I love the king. Yeah.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah. I'm super into the fact that you are the main dude at True Brewing.
Yeah, the head brewer there.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about beer in general. How
Sure.
did you get into the world of brewing beers?
Yeah, I've been brewing professionally now for going on 8 years. I started home brewing when I was getting my master's degree at University of North Texas, and it I became obsessed with it. And then I graduated and got an office job, and I hated it. I hated the work, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that job forever, living in the office world. I mean, like, it's not really for me. So I was trying to figure out what I should do with my life. And really, I decided I wanted to be a brewer professionally, and there weren't many breweries in North Texas at the time. Now there's a fair amount, but because of that, I packed up my shit and moved to Denver. And
Which was like the beer mecca.
yeah, it was then and is even more now, and decided to give it a go. So I started volunteering at some places and got my foot in the door at a small startup brewery in the suburbs of Denver, and just worked my way up from there. And it's been pretty great.
What would be that first home brew that you made that was like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah,
I can drink this?
the first beer I made was a maple porter, which I love porters. I don't know why.
Very
I've just
ambitious.
Yeah, it was. And after I brewed the batch, I did so much wrong. I was sure it was going to be terrible, but I held on to it anyway. And immediately, I wanted to make one that I thought would be good. And I'd read about saison, and I read that you could ferment without much temperature control, and it would turn out really, really nice. So I very quickly brewed another batch, a saison, to try to hedge because I wanted to make something that was good. But ironically, the saison was terrible, and the porter was really good. And I swear I'm still brewing to this day, trying to figure out why.
To figure out why the
Yeah.
saison didn't work or why the porter did work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like a miracle of mistakes.
I really just started diving in, why didn't this thing work, and then why did this thing work? I just started asking questions about fermentation, and started looking at ingredients, and there's so much to unravel there. I quickly took over all the rest of what I was doing. And
how delicate is it for you to balance being a chemist and being a head brewer at a up-and-coming, very popular craft beer brewery?
Yeah, it's fairly tough, I would say, but not necessarily any harder than, I don't know, doing whatever people do in their lives and making time for the things they love. I mean, the main thing that I do is I work my ass off, especially for tour. I work my ass off before we leave, and then immediately when I get back, and kind of try to front and backload all the work that I need to do. But in general, basically all I do is I go to work and make beer, and after that I go to band practice, and then I go home. And so I have kind of cut out a lot of the other things in my life to just focus on playing music and making beer.
Your two passions, which is what I was going to say, that a lot of people don't necessarily enjoy their day job, so coming on tour is an escape.
Yeah.
Whereas you are leaving a passion at home when you come out to pursue the secondary passion.
Yeah, it's really nice because they fulfill different parts of my kind of emotional and creative needs. So it's nice to have them both, and it feels like I'm doing something different when I'm not, when I'm doing one or the other. So still going on tour is great because I don't feel like, I'm leaving this behind. I'm I get to do this other cool thing now. But yeah, it is. People ask me all the time, how do you do it? And main thing is I don't sleep that much and I work a lot. So
sacrificing love.
That's it, man.
Do you feel like you have more time on tour, more downtime?
It's weird. As the band becomes more successful, yes and no. It's just strange. The load-in times get earlier, so the gaps of time become bigger, but there are weird amounts of time where you almost can't do much. And then we were talking about this before, but I don't really like to drink before we play.
But it becomes easy too.
It becomes easier to do that when you have
slippery.
more downtime. Yeah. So it's trying to fill that time with something else, which is weird, especially being a brewer, because people are like, let's go to a brewery, check this out. And I'm I want to, but I shouldn't. So it's weird.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So I just have to maintain a fairly even keel, and it all works out all right.
What would be a day-to-day for people that don't know at home, being a head brewer? What does that consist of?
I get up at 5 a.m. every day and go into work. I'll usually pull the grain we need for the brew we're doing that day. Most days I'm brewing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now we've got our shifts split into kind of two phases, an AM shift and a PM shift for brewing. So I'll take the early one. So I'll get to work, pull grain, brew until about 1 in the afternoon. And then our other brewer will take over for the second batch. And that's the bulk of the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Monday, Friday, I kind of do scheduling, inventory management, all the more office work sides of it that I need to get done. But, getting up at 5 a.m., some days will be 16 hours, some days will be 7. You just don't know.
It depends on
all
the brew,
time,
or depends on the work that needs to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I hardly ever work 40 hours. That's like a really luxurious thing.
Unbelievable.
But it happens. As I go on, I'm figuring out ways to kind of
delegate.
Yeah, and make life easier via process stuff. Yeah.
What would be a beer that you're the most proud of right now?
Oh man, I have a couple that I've been working on for a long time, but one that we're about to release is a Norwegian farmhouse style beer. But a couple of months ago, I went to Bergen, and I had some Norwegian friends, and one of them volunteered to take me to a actual farmhouse and learn how to brew traditional Norwegian farmhouse beer. So we went outside of Voss, which is a couple hours away, to rural Norway, and I brewed in this eldhus, they call it, which is like a firehouse where they would cook everything. And
how different is the process from that to what you do?
Pretty different. I mean, a lot of the key elements are the same, but it was part of the reason I have been interested in like Scandinavian traditional brewing is because it is fairly different from Western brewing anyway, and so I got to get my hands on some yeast from there, and also just learn some of that process. So just recently I made a beer with some of those processes and the yeast that I brought back from Norway. We had propped up with our local yeast bank for a pitch for this beer. And so that's going to be coming out soon, and I'm very excited about that. And then another beer that we just released, it's basically just a Belgian Pale Ale. I'm obsessed with Terrace Bulba from De La Seine Brewery. And last year I went to their brewery in Brussels and kind of learned some of their process things. They have different size and shape fermentation vessels to promote a certain yeast characteristic that has to do with the hydrostatic pressure on the yeasts via the shape of these fermentation vessels. And then I think I was able to sleuth out what yeast strain they were using, and this has all been kicking around in my brain for about a year. And
trying to find the perfect moment.
Exactly.
Get the perfect
and then
ingredients.
I found a fermentation vessel that we could use that was similar enough to what they were using, and so I've been playing around with that stuff too, and so those are really exciting things for me.
That's cool. So you travel for the brewery.
Yeah, I travel for the brewery. We do a lot of festivals in the States and then also around the world. A lot of it just to get in front of people. And then also just we can sell a pallet of beer and it pays for the trip, so we can sell beer just to go hang out in a cool place. So, for example, like when Mikkeller invites us out to Copenhagen, it's like, yep, we'll sell a pallet of beer and go and hang out, and we'll make some money, but it's
more just the connections you're going to make.
And the other thing, too, is there's a kind of like in the same way that there's like a circuit of bands that tour all the time, breweries are very similar, and you end up getting to network and see a lot of the same faces that, you want to be friends with these people who are making killer beer, and being around them is always a plus because you're learning from them all the time, and it's
almost like jamming with them.
Totally.
When you do these collaborations with them, it's almost like stepping into a jam room with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And throwing some ideas around, sharing your experience, your approach to playing the drums, let's say, with another drummer.
Oh, for sure, man. And I've always been that way. Like, whenever I go see a band, I'll watch the drummer a lot, just because I think almost every drummer, you can pick up one little thing maybe, and brewing beer with other people, I always try to take away one little thing to add to our process, not in a way of like stealing something, but finding something that like would make sense for like our approach, and being able to work that in and give
it's like
our
an
spin on it.
inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
It's being very creative, being a brewer, especially in that I read like an article stating that are we at the point where it's gone too far?
Yeah,
that you have to be too creative. That you need a new product all the time.
Yeah, I feel like the brewing industry right now is in a really interesting place with some of what's going on, but a lot of it has to do with the way that things have shifted from, just being able to sell beer based on the beer is good versus having now to actually market beer in a real way. So, but I don't know.
I really think, speaking about marketing beer, I don't know how involved you are with this. I'm curious to know. The branding, the logos, the can art. How involved are you in that?
Almost not at all. Our owner,
because
Nick,
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Our owner Nick does all of our graphic design, and we have one main artist, Sam Turner, who has done almost all of our art from day one. And so Sam will do the art and give that to Nick, and Nick will, make that into what it needs to be for packaging, and that combination has been amazing. I think they both do such a good job, and it's created this thing where like the brand of True is really big, even though like our production is still fairly small. It's kind of crazy. I'll like touring with a band, we'll travel all over, whether it be in the States or not, and I'll see True shirts everywhere, or hats or whatever.
But they're badass.
Yeah, totally.
For people that don't know at home, True Brewing's can artwork, shirts everywhere. It's very metal.
I get
themed and feeling.
I get a kick out of people not knowing who I am because I can just kind of hide around and count the True merchandise in the thing.
I don't know if they actually follow the band as well.
Yeah,
because they know. Yeah.
Sometimes like it's been pretty cool. We've been getting more and more brewers coming to our shows over the years, and they'll bring us beer, and so now I'll try to stock up on beer from True when we hit the road, so I can like give back, have something to give back.
That circle of love. Yeah.
Exactly.
That tape trading.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Stuff that you can't get your hands on up here.
Totally.
Especially in Montreal. I've never seen a True brew up here.
I think the only time we've sent beer to Canada was Bellwoods did in Toronto did a festival last year, and we were out for that. So who knows moving forward? I don't know. But
it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
Yeah.
How often are you satisfied with your brews?
Well, somebody asked me like, "What's your favorite?" I don't know, man. It's almost never is my answer, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty harsh critic of myself and my work, and I almost always think things can be better. I very rarely taste a beer that I've made and have thought, yeah, that's it. I'm almost always like, okay, this part of it could be better.
Is that the same thing when let's say you put out a new album?
Yeah.
And you listen to your drum tracks?
Yeah.
Do you have the same relationship with it?
I do, but I have a little bit less of it for the musical side, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think there's so many elements to brewing where I feel like I could manipulate this thing to change this, to make this a little better. With drumming, I'm like, well, this is as good as I could have done. Despite playing drums for so long, I'm still this bad. So that's just how it is.
you accept that.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave Otero thought it was good enough.
Yeah, totally. I think maybe that's part of it too, is having somebody like Dave to work with. He's so critical. If it passes Otero, I feel like it's probably okay.
Yeah, huge shout out to Otero, Vox&Hops alumni.
Yeah. Yes.
What would be that white whale of a beer
that
you've always wanted to taste, but you never got your hands onto?
Oh, man. That is really hard because I've been fortunate now to try most things I've wanted to. And like that kind of thing of like having a beer I'm dying to try has like, I don't care anymore about that. So
you don't believe the hype?
I don't, man. Yeah. And the other,
that was the heady topper for me.
Oh yeah,
so much hype up here in Montreal.
It's
so
great.
much hype. I finally tried it, and I was like, nah.
Yeah,
I've had better.
It. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the thing. Like the first time I had Pliny the Elder from Russian River, I was like, oh my God, I got to try this beer. And then I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty
I
good.
could brew better.
No, but it was like, there's been a few moments for me, like drinking beer, that have totally blown my mind, where I've had a beer that's just been, transformative and like has really expanded, my understanding of what beer can be. And I still love trying beer because I feel like I'm always chasing that dragon, looking for like that experience. It happens really rarely, and I don't expect it necessarily from a hype brewery or a not hype brewery. I think it could be anything. I just don't know. So I don't, one of the recent examples of that is this brewery called Scratch Brewing, and they had made a beer. They make a lot of beer with ingredients very local to them on their farm, and they'd made a beer with tree bark and leaves, and it was amazing.
That's badass.
And it absolutely blew my mind. I'd never had anything like it. I couldn't figure out how they did it, which is always a thing for me. Like, I try to turn my brewing brain off a lot of the time when I'm just drinking beer, but when I'm trying something new, I'm sitting there going like, okay, this is Pilsner malt, this is Mosaic hops, I get it, I got it, cool, check. Which sounds arrogant, but I feel like a lot of the times I can basically understand how a beer is made. But every once in a while, I have a beer that's so like mind-bending. If that's the thing, if I can't figure out how they got a flavor in a beer that's not an additive of some, just like a
chemical something.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'm like fascinated, and that'll blow my mind. So it still happens. I just don't. I don't care where the beer's coming from necessarily.
What about that first beer?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first beer?
Yeah, the first one that blew my mind was Le Fin du Monde from Unibrew.
From up here.
Yes. I never had beer that tasted like that because I hadn't had Belgian beer before.
That's right.
Really.
That's right.
And that is still one of my favorite beers just because of that experience.
I think they were one of the first bottle re-fermented beers in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still... Most of the beers that I give a shit about are Belgian-style beers. We make a ton of Saison and things in that wheelhouse, and
beers that have character.
Yeah,
and that change over time.
A lot of like yeast-driven beers, I guess. I don't know why, but that's always been more fascinating to me than some of the other styles of beer, and maybe it's because that first kind of beer, moment that was transformative was a yeast-forward beer. I didn't realize that at the time. I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. This is
like,
awesome.
Oh my God, it's 9%?
Yeah, exactly. At the time, that's why I ordered it.
It tastes like something?
Yeah, I was like a shitty 21-year-old kid. I was like, I want to get drunk. This isn't that much more than this other beer, and it's 9%. Cool, I'll order it. I had no idea what it was. Tried it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'll have 4 more.
Yes, up here in Canada, you can get them in 40s. We call them 40 ounces.
Yes.
And it was always a bad idea to drink the second one.
yeah. Especially when they're taped to your hands.
Yes. For me, it was Les Trois Pistoles.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also from Unibrew.
Yeah. That's cool that it's the same brewery.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Very, very good.
Yeah, I can remember that moment, though, very distinctly. So, I was at a British pub, oddly enough. It doesn't make any sense. In Texas, pub. None of this makes sense. But there we are.
Do you have any breweries from Montreal that you are a fan of, aside from Unibrew?
Man, I don't know the beer scene here very well at all, honestly. So, maybe I might like breweries here. I don't even know we're from here. So... I don't know.
Okay.
What breweries are here?
Oh, we got a whole bunch. We got Dieu du Ciel.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes, they're amazing.
With Péché Mortel.
Yes.
It's the classic coffee stout.
Yeah. Oh, how could I forget that? That's funny. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
How about doing collaborations with bands? Is that something that True has done before? Have you made a Khemmis beer yet?
No, that feels too self-gratifying. I don't know. It feels like too egotistical. I can't do it.
You think? Yeah?
Yeah.
Why would that be?
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not making a beer for the band I play in. It just seems ridiculous.
Would you be interested the way Three Floyds makes beers with metal bands?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
With your branding, it just makes sense to me to start making some collaboration.
Yeah, we haven't really done it. We've talked about it. I mean, the main thing is we'll name all the beers after metal songs, and you know, some of them are for bands that aren't around anymore, and some are for some that are. And we've talked about it with a few bands of doing something more directly collaborative. Part of it is I'm so fucking hard-headed that I just want to make whatever beer I want to make, and I don't want
to collaborate.
I don't want to collaborate. We do a fair amount of collaborating, like a lot actually, with other breweries too. So yeah, I mean, it really would make sense to do it with bands. We just haven't done it yet. I don't know. I don't have a good reason.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think True Brewing is really, really excellent, strong, very good beer. I've never had the chance to come to the brew pub.
Yeah,
I've heard that it's super cool.
It's a really small
great
place.
atmosphere.
The bar.
Cool. Tell everyone a little bit about that.
Just like a 2,000 square foot shotgun bar, really narrow. We have one huge long table and community seating, and then some bar stools to sit at the bar, and we play metal. And yeah, it's a fairly simple setup. We used to brew at that locate where our bar is as well, but we've recently moved all of our production to a warehouse that's a couple of miles away. We just started growing too much for that space, and it didn't make sense to keep brewing there anymore. So, which is a little weird. It's a little weird not brewing in the place where
you're serving.
Yeah, but it needed to happen. So.
I feel reservations against it.
No. It's mostly it's honestly, for me, it's great because it makes production management a lot easier, not having two locations to deal with, even though one was really small. You're still splitting people and time and all that. So it's nice having all the resources in one place. But yeah, just philosophically, it feels a little strange. But we'll see. It also gives us opportunity to do something cool in that space, and we're trying to figure out what direction we're going to go with that now. So yeah.
So next time I'm in Denver, I'm coming.
Yes, please do.
I hope you're home.
I hope so too.
If not, I'll get recommendations from you. Yes. I'm stoked about it.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Zach, for coming.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Drinking a pint with me. One of my favorite bars in Montreal, Brasserie Harricana.
It's great.
It's I come here a lot. I'm away from home.
Yeah.
And when I heard you're playing down the street, I had to bring you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cheers to you. Cheers. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Zach, such a cool dude. I just can't wait to go back to Denver and go to the tap room, the True Brewing tap room, and taste some of the beers that Zach has made. I always love doing that. It's just such a great experience on tour when you step into a tap room that is far away from home, but as soon as you walk through those doors, you feel like you're right at home. So, Zach, I'm going to take you up on that offer, and I'm going to come, and I'm going to taste some of your beers. Super stoked to see you again, Zach. This past week, I added on the Vox&Hops.com. For the very first time, I have added a donate button. If you guys feel like you would like to donate financially to the podcast to show your appreciation of the podcast and help support it, you just follow the links on the website and go through these steps via PayPal. You can make some donations. Anything helps. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just something small. Everything means a lot to me, and I'll give you guys a shout-out on upcoming podcasts. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.